business is always in my mind. Stephen Carroll is here with it for us, starting with the stock markets. The shares plunging once again in Asia, Stephen.
Yes, this global share sell-off seems to be continuing through trading today. We've seen sharp falls in Japan and in Australia on the markets. In trading today, Chinese markets still closed the New Year holiday, as well as Hong Kong and South Korea. They're closed as well. But this was the picture on the Nikkei in Tokyo and on the ASX 200 in Sydney. 5.4%. You can see the fall there in Japan. Banks, again, leading the slump on the market. Some lenders down by more than 10% at the end of the day in Japan and Australia. Banks again, but also energy companies in the red too. And this really follows on to what we saw in Europe and on Wall Street yesterday. European markets were battered on Monday. Most of the main share markets closing down some 3%.
Quite scary looking at those figures, though, isn't it? I mean, why are they falling so much?
Well, it's the banks really that are at the centre of this. And it's interesting because we haven't seen falls like this on bank shares really since the height of the Eurozone crisis back in 2008. And there's a couple of factors at play here. Global economic growth is low, oil prices look set to remain low, and interest rates as well. And low interest rates means, of course, that banks' earning power is limited, and it's prompted some investors to sell their shares. Now, none of these factors are particularly new, but some traders are saying that the Japanese central bank's decision to introduce negative interest rates caused a bit of a trigger worldwide. That's on top of fears that perhaps banks haven't prepared for a sustained global economic slowdown, particularly when it comes to their investments in oil. There's a sense among our market experts, though, that this panic selling is overblown, that it's been amplified, but we may see more trouble ahead on the European markets later.
OK, another story from France now, and a privacy ruling that is going to affect Facebook.
Yeah, the French privacy regulator has threatened to fine Facebook if it doesn't change the way that it handles personal information. Among other changes, the CNIL says the social network must tell people who are not Facebook users that their internet use is being tracked via the like button on websites. It also says Facebook must seek explicit consent to collect sensitive information like religious beliefs or sexual orientation from its users. Now, the CNIL has ordered Facebook to stop some transfers at least, of user data to the United States. This is in the wake of the European Court of Justice decision that struck down what was called the Safe Harbour data sharing deal. If Facebook fails to comply with any of this, it could face fines of up to €150,000. A company spokeswoman said, though, that they're confident they comply with European law and that they'll engage with the watchdog on those issues.
Another Facebook story now. This is a setback for the company, this time in India.
This is after India's telecoms regulator blocked Facebook's free internet service, saying that it violated the principles of net neutrality. The social network rolled out the programme in more than 35 developing countries, but has faced a backlash over its limited nature. Fernand Van Tetz explains.
A setback for Facebook's efforts to get Indians online. The Free Basics program, which runs in more than 35 developing countries, offers free internet access on mobile phones to a certain number of sites, including Facebook and its messaging services. Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg has emphasized that access to the internet improves lives and spent heavily on a campaign to convince Indians of its merits. But critics say a limited internet puts small content providers and startups that don't participate in it at a disadvantage. India's telecom regulator had the final say and ruled that it violates the principles of net neutrality.
But today we have come out with a regulation which essentially mandates that no service provider shall charge differential pricing on the basis of application, platforms or websites or source.
Facebook, which was not mentioned by name in the ruling, said it was disappointed with the outcome, but it would continue its efforts to connect people around the world. CEO Mark Zuckerberg added that more than 1 billion of India's 1.3 billion people do not have internet access. That huge population is one of the reasons Facebook and other tech companies are keen to establish a foothold in the country.
Some more of the day's business headlines for you now. Profits of the media group 21st Century Fox were dragged down by weaker revenues from its film studio. Total revenues fell by more than $500,000 in the last quarter, but increased earnings from its cable TV division helped to sustain much of the figures. Studio profits also hit by an increased investment in new programmes. The French drugs company Sanofi saw sales rise slightly in the last quarter, despite a plunge in demand for its diabetes and cancer drugs. Net profits at the company fell by 6.5% to 1.7 billion euros. That's for the last 3 months of 2015. But revenues from its American branch helped to increase annual profits by almost 8%. And Uber is suspending its service in Paris for 4 hours today in protest at regulatory changes announced by the French government. The app will not function between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. local time over measures which the company say risk putting 10,000 drivers out of work. The changes relate to driver licensing, among other measures, which were announced following protests by taxi drivers here in Paris.
And last story from Stephen for this bulletin anyway. An unorthodox auction of memorabilia. This is memorabilia belonging to the late great Beatle John Lennon, isn't it?
Not a possession, but a lock of his hair has gone on sale in Dallas. It's currently valued at around $12,000. The 10-centimetre chunk was kept by a hairdresser who cut Lennon's hair when he was starring in the film How I Won the War in the 1960s. This is apparently, fun fact, the largest lock of Lennon's hair to go on sale ever.
Right.
Now, it's accompanied by a call sheet from the film, which he signed. The online auction is still going until February 20th. The price could still rise. Mm-hmm. I don't know why you would want that.
I don't quite understand. I want to know whether it's been independently verified.
It has.
It has?
Yes, it has been independently verified.
Okay.
It's been in the original owners, this hairdresser's possession, for 50 years.
Yeah.
But it is, someone's hair.
Oh,
No.
No. I think we just decided no. Okay.
We won't be
If
bidding.
you want to bid, you
Yeah.
can bid, but Stephen and I will not be putting in a bid for that one. John Lennon's hair.